Learner-centered pedagogy is an approach to teaching and learning cultivates students' wisdom and contributions. Teachers create a learning environment encouraging students to actively engage in and take an ownership of their learning experiences. Methods and strategies in learner-centered teaching. We have here three methods, and the first one is active learning activities. It is a learning activity in which the student participates or interacts with the learning process. Example is group project, which promote important intellectual and social skills and help to prepare students for a work world in which teamwork and collaboration are increasingly the norm. Role play. Assume the role of a person or act out a given situation. It is effective in reaching learning outcomes in three domains, namely affective, cognitive, and behavioral. Another example is think, pair, share. When they think quietly on how they answer the question, then pair, then share what they're thinking, and only one person talks at a time. Second method is cooperative learning activities, in which the students work together on academic tasks in a small groups to help themselves and their teammates learn together. Example of this method is jigsaw, which organizes classroom activity that makes students dependent on each other to succeed. Another example is group discussions, which allow its participants to share their views and opinions with other participants. The purpose of a group discussion is to help each group member explore and discover personal meanings of a text through interaction. Another is fishbowl debates. It is a type of group discussions that can be utilized when there are two distinct positions or arguments. Third method is inquiry and inductive learning activities. Inductive learning is a powerful strategy for helping students deepen their understanding of content and develop their influence and evidence gathering skills. Example of this method is case study. It involves an up-close, in-depth, and detailed examination of a particular cases within a real-world context. Second example is field work, in which field-based learning is where teaching is extended to a site outside of the classroom or laboratory, exposing students to a real-world setting. Another example is research project. Determining the validity of your study is anchored on research paper. Research project is a technique used to identify, select, process, and analyze information about a topic. Learner-centered instructional strategies. Cooperative learning is a successful teaching strategy in which small teams accomplish a learning task. Cooperative learning is used in the classroom when students work on tasks together in reporting and research. Each member is responsible to help each other to achieve the task. Presentations is a strategy of using student presentations as a way to present content to the class as a whole that can be fun and engaging method. Presentation helps the students practice in public speaking. Panels. In a panel discussion, a selected group of students act as a panel, and the remaining class members act as the audience. The panel leader is chosen to summarize the panel discussion and open discussion to the audience. KWL, an acronym for Know, Want to Know, and Learn. Here is an example of KWL chart. KWL charts are graphic organizers that help students organize information before, during, and after a unit or a lesson. Brainstorming is a group activity that encourages the students to focus on a topic and contribute to the free flow of ideas. Teacher may begin a brainstorming session by posing a question or a problem. Then students can express possible answers and relevant ideas. Learner-created media involves a high degree of engagement, promotes individual learning, social interaction, and immersion. It provides an alternative or a complement to traditional undergraduate student research. Discussion is a variety of forums for open-ended, collaborative exchange of ideas among a teacher and student. The participants present multiple points of view, respond to the ideas of others, and reflect on their own ideas. Small group allows presenters to announce a topic or idea for a group discussion among participants. A small group discussion follows democratic guidelines and allow everyone to contribute many ideas for others to discuss and reflect upon. Students work together to complete the task as assigned. Case studies often involve simply observing what happens to or reconstructing the case history of a single participant or a group of individuals. Case studies are more useful when students are learning a process of information analysis or asking questions. Jigsaw is a method of organizing classroom activity that makes students dependent on each other to succeed. Jigsaw is a cooperative learning strategy that breaks classes into groups and breaks assignment to complete the jigsaw puzzle. Learning centers is an exploratory and interactive learning strategy where students rotate in groups to different activities that reinforce and extend classroom learning. The materials for each activity are placed in specific locations around the classroom, and students complete the activities in small groups. Experiments is a procedure carried out to support, reflect, or validate a hypothesis. Experiments provide insight into cause and effect by demonstrating what outcome occurs when a particular factor is manipulated. Role play is a technique that allows students to explore realistic situations by interacting with other people. Role play allows everyone to participate. Simulations are instructional scenarios where the learner is placed in a world defined by the teacher. They represent a reality within which students interact. Laboratory strategies provide students with opportunities to think about, discuss, and solve real problems. Laboratories are wonderful settings for teaching and learning science. It develops intuition and deepens understanding of concepts. Workshop is a teaching structure that pushes students to be creative and responsible in their own learning. Demonstration is a teaching method used to communicate an idea with the aid of visuals such as flip charts, posters, and PowerPoint, etc. Inquiry-based strategy is an approach to learning that emphasizes the student's role in the learning process. Mental models are organized pattern consisting of both structure and process that helps a student comprehend content, knowledge, or solve problems. Project-based learning is a teaching method in which students gain knowledge and skills by working for an extended period of time to investigate and respond. Problem-based learning is a teaching method in which complex real-world problems are used as a vehicle to promote student learning concepts and principles. It can also provide opportunities for working in groups, finding and evaluating research materials, and lifelong learning. Discovery learning encourages learners to build on past experiences and knowledge, and search for new information to discover facts, correlations, and new truths. It is used in the classroom during problem-solving exercises and educational programs. Social media are tools that allow for social interaction and easy creation of content by users. It can be an effective tool for teaching and learning in higher education. Games or gamification is turning the learning process as a whole into a game. It takes game mechanics and gameplay elements and applies them to existing learning courses and content in order to better motivate and engage learners. Competitions allow students to extend themselves to exploit their real capabilities and maximize their true potential. Debate involves students in expressing their opinions from two competing perspectives with the goal of contradicting each other's argument. It is an opportunity for decision may be given after opposing views are presented in alternating statements.
Delivery modalities. This refers to a learning delivery modality where learning takes place between the teacher and the learners who are geographically remote from each other during instruction. The following are the modalities in teaching student. Number 1, face-to-face. Face-to-face learning. This refers to a learning delivery modality where the student and the teachers are both physically present in the classroom, and there are opportunities for an active engagement, immediate feedback, and socio-emotional development of the learners. This is a traditional type where teachers and students work together through their learning. Blended learning combines the best of two training environments, traditional face-to-face classroom training and high-tech e-learning. By covering all the bases, you can engage all types of learners. Those who learn better in instructed environment that include face-to-face interaction with the instructor, and the independent types who learn better with semi-autonomous computer-based training. While the classroom offers an opportunity for role playing with immediate face to face feedback, online learning offers personalized self paced learning with e learning and EM learning components that lead themselves through interactive media such as skill building, games, videos, tutorials, and quizzes. Following are some examples of blended learning. A. Station rotation blended learning is a model that allows students to rotate through station on a fixed schedule where at least one of the station is an online learning station. Remote blended learning or enriched virtual. In this model, the student focus on completing online coursework while only meeting with the teacher intermittently or as needed. This approach differs from a flipped learner. Flipped classroom blended learning is one where students are introduced to content at home and practice working through at it in school supported by teachers and or peers. In this way, traditional rules for each space are flipped in other words, studying at school and learning at home. Master-based blended learning. Students rotate between online and face-to-face learning based on the completion of master-based learning objectives. Assessment design is crucial in any master-based learning experience. Technology-based online e-learning constitute learning via electronic technology including the internet, satellite broadcast, audio and video conference, bulletin boards, chat rooms, webcast, and CD-ROM. This fosters greater accessibility to learning by offering anytime and anywhere delivery of information. Online learning, on the other hand, refers to the idea of using online tools for learning. An online course implies a distance between the students and the teachers. Lectures, assessment, tests, and blended by virtual platforms. While e-teacher, while the e-learning typically refers to the online interaction between the students and the teachers. Students receive the training through an online medium, even though the teacher may be in the same building. Distance learning. The refers to a learning delivery modality where learning takes place between the teachers and the learners who are geographically remote from each other during instruction. This modality has three types: modular distance learning or MDL, online distance learning ODL, and TV radio based instruction.
Structure for facilitating learner-centered teaching. It is a potent tool to help preserve and practicing process and practices that are anchored on learner-centeredness and other educational psychologies as they apply to facilitate the delivery of teaching and learning in the current educational milieu. Under structure for facilitating learner-centered teaching, we have formal, traditional, alternative learning system, ALS. Under ALS, we have non-formal education, B. Formal education, and C. The mobile teachers. Number 3. Alternative delivery modes or ADM. Under ADM, we have modified in-school, off-school approach or MIMOSA. B. Enhanced instructional management by parents, community, and teachers. E. Impact. C. Open High School Program, OHSP. Formal traditional is considered with the teacher being controller of the learning environment. Power and responsibility are held by the teachers, and they play the role of instructor in form of lectures and decisions maker in regards to curriculum and specific outcome. Alternative learning system or ALS is a practical option to the existing formal instruction so that students can complete basic education in a method that fits their distinct situation and needs. Under this flexible program, learning can take place anytime at any place. Under the alternative learning system, Act Republic Number 11510, a learning system that is different from the traditional classroom-based method will be formally established. Non-formal education is often used interchangeably with terms such as community education, adult education, lifelong education, and second chance education. Informal education does not have the structure and levels that formal schools have. It's more natural and spontaneous, meaning that information that one learns through this form of education comes from learning from experience. For example, viewing videos, self-studies, and reading articles. The mobile teachers are specialized teachers who live among the people in remote barangays of the country and conduct the BLP for illiterate out-of-school youth and adults who willing to learn basic literacy skills and accreditation and equivalency, a continuing education for those who left formal school system or have no access to school. Modified in-school, off-school approach, MIMOSA, is an alternative delivery mode of education meant to address the problem of congestion. Classes under MIMOSA are divided into two groups, the in-school group and the off-school group, wherein the in-school group learns in a typical classroom setup, while the off-school group is given the flexibility to learn and do activities independently or with a learning facilitator. Enhanced instructional management by parents, community, and teachers, e-Impact, is learning system in Philippines that was designed in 2010 by the Southeast Asian Minister of Organization CMEO Pinatec. Through e-Impact, CMEO wants address the problems in education in the Philippines public school system such as lack of classroom, teachers, and textbooks, high dropout rate, a low budget rate, and a low budget allocated for budget. Open High School Program. It is an alternative mode of formal secondary education program run by Bureau of Secondary Education, BSE of the Department of Education, DepEd. The program provides an opportunity for elementary school graduates, high school dropouts, and successful examinees of the Philippines Education Placement Test to complete secondary education in a purely distance learning mode. The program provides printed self-learning modules for students to use for their lessons and classroom activities. Flexible learning and teaching. Flexible learning is a method of learning where students are given freedom in how, what, when, and where they learn. Flexible learning environment addresses how physical space is used, how students are grouped during learning, and how time is used throughout teaching. Examples of flexible learning are face-to-face contact, discussion boards, teleconferencing or video conferencing, print resources. Flexible teaching accommodates curiosity, allows lessons to have a much looser structure, lets discussion and thoughts play out and follow them to see where they go. In traditional course, some activities are synchronous, like listening to lectures or participating in discussions, labs and small group. Other activities might be asynchronous, like readings and homework assignments. Differentiated learning is a framework for philosophy that involves providing all students within their diverse classroom community of learners a range of different avenues for understanding new information in terms of acquiring content, processing, constructing, or making sense of ideas and developing teaching materials and assessment measures so that all students within a classroom can learn effectively regardless of differences in their ability. According to Tomlinson, teachers can differentiate instructions through four ways. The first one is the content. Match vocabulary words to definitions, read a passage of text and answer related questions, identify an author's position and provide evidence to support this viewpoint. The second one is the process. Provide textbooks for visual and word learners. Allow auditory learners to listen to audiobooks. Give kinesthetic learners the opportunity to complete an interactive assignment online. The third is the product. Read and write learners write a book report. Visual learners create a graphic organizer of the story. Auditory learners give an oral report. Kinesthetic learners build a diorama illustrating the story. The last one is the learning environment. Break some students into reading groups to discuss the assignment. Allow students to read individually if preferred. Create a quiet spaces where there are no distractions. Examples of differentiated instructions. First one, create learning station. Provide different types of content by setting up learning stations. Divide sections to your classroom through which groups of students rotate. You can facilitate this with a flexible seating plan. For example, students can rotate between stations that involve watching a video, creating artwork, reading an article, completing puzzles, and listening to your teacher. Second one is the target different senses within lessons. A lesson should resonate with more students if it targets visual, tactile, auditory, and kinesthetic senses, instead of only one like playing videos, using infographics, providing audiobooks, incorporating chart and illustration within text, giving both spoken and written direction to tasks, and allotting time students to create artistic reflections and interpretations of lessons.
Education in emergencies. It is a critical, life-saving response that works to protect children in conflict and natural disasters and preserve their right to education. The education that protects their well-being, fosters learning opportunities, and nurtures the overall development of all affected by conflicts and disasters. Foundational standards. This domain details standards for community participants, participation and resources, and coordination and analysis. Community participation in health ensures that individuals, families, and communities have input into decisions that will affect their health and well-being. Coordination and analysis. The process of organizing people or groups so that they work together properly and well, and a detailed examination of anything complex in order to understand its nature or to determine its essential features. Assessment. Educational assessment or educational evaluation is a systematic process of documenting and using empirical data on knowledge, skills, attitudes, and beliefs to refine programs and improve student learning. Response strategies are practical, field-friendly tools to guide anyone working in the field of education in emergencies. Monitoring. This is a systematic process of collecting, analyzing, and using information to track a program's progress toward reaching its object and to guide management decisions. Evaluation. The primary purpose of evaluation is to gaining insights into prior or existing initiatives, and it's to enable reflection and assist in the identification of future change. The teaching learning domain. These standards focus on critical elements that promote effective teaching and learning, including curricula, culturally, socially, and linguistically relevant curricula are used to provide formal and non-formal education, appropriate to particular contexts and needs of learners. Training, professional development, and support. Teachers and other education personnel receive periodic, relevant instructors and structured training according to the needs and circumstances. Instructions and learning processes. These are learner-centered, participatory, and exclusive. It is a consciously designed systematic process that strengthens how learners obtain, retain, and apply knowledge, skills, and attitudes. Assessment and learning outcomes. These appropriate methods are used to evaluate learning outcomes. Assessment of learning refers to strategies designed to confirm what students know, demonstrate whether or not have met curriculum outcomes.
My reflection in learner-centered pedagogy. These teaching methods and strategies empower the students to learn as much as they can. It is very important to use a different pedagogy in lesson planning and facilitating learning. To make the students more active, they should practice or experience these instructional strategies which promotes individual learning and social interaction. As a future educator, I will consider all this learner-centered pedagogy to achieve effective learning outcomes of my students.
My reflections about learner-centered pedagogy. In general views, learners must be an active participants in their own education, shaped by their interests, prior knowledge, and skills. So as a future educator, using learner-centered approach helps facilitate student learning interests as they arise by guiding discussion and inquiry, while being mindful to incorporate various learning experience in the classroom. I can use this learning-centered pedagogy in teaching my students, which enable them to explore and learn more by discovering their strengths and abilities.
My reflection to the learning-centered pedagogy is that learners are active participants in their own learning with their educational shape by their own interest. As a future educator, it is my responsibility to empower students to take risks and to be innovative and seize any opportunity thrown their way. And as a future educator, I must prepare to be data collectors, planners, collaborators, curriculum experts, and also as a researchers.
My reflection about learner centered pedagogy. Learner centered pedagogy focuses the learner on how they learn, what they experience, and how they engage with their learning and actively engage in constructing their own learning. Students should be independent and responsible in their learning. As a future educator, I will use different strategies in teaching my students through experiences and academics, which can result to higher education level.
Reflection in learner-centered pedagogy is learners make experience to learn as much as they can during course experience and uses interactive strategies to engage the students and develop their ability and to enhance their skills. As a future teacher, I should encourage students by allowing students to share decisions, believing in their capacity to lead, and remembering how it feels to learn.